So now, hybrid do's and don'ts. We're going to turn it over to Terry. You're going to get to hear from this brilliant and talented young man.
So good morning. My name is Terry Lowe. I'm with Bloomington Noon Rotary. I am not a sound engineer by profession. I'm a web developer, but naturally, because I'm comfortable with technology, I was given the volunteer opportunity for our club to run hybrid. And so this happened early during the COVID pandemic. We saw it as a need, and fortunately we had some of the resources available to actually make this thing happen, and we began to scale it up and evolve it over time to make it a little bit more polished and refined like you see today. But I do want to share with you some hybrid do's and don'ts. I think they would be helpful tips from somebody who's been boots to the ground. They're practical, and I think hopefully you'll be able to take a few of them back to your club. The idea is to be able to make the club meetings run as smoothly and as efficiently as possible, but also create an engaging experience where it doesn't matter if you're in room or remote, like we have a few people here today. We want everybody to feel inclusive and that they're participating at the same time. The first thing for operator engineers like myself is to ensure that you arrive early, because with technology, sometimes things will happen. The equipment may fail, the internet may not be working, a button may be inadvertently pressed. One little thing can just screw up your day completely. And there's a lot of pressure because there are many Rotarians that are depending on the success of that hybrid session. There are 5, 6, 10, 15 people waiting in the wings so that they can gain access to the meeting. Next thing is always check to ensure that you've got full power, whether it be the microphone, a cord to the projector, your laptop is fully charged as well. It would be a terrible thing if you were at 15% charge and something on the screen showed up that says you're on low power and you've only just begun the Rotary meeting. It's going to be nerve-wracking for you. The next thing is a strong internet connection. Realize that there's a lot of bandwidth happening in these Zoom connections. So the hotel generally has 2 levels of Wi-Fi access available, just like they do here at the Royal Sonesta. They've got the 5 meg, and then if you log in, you get the 15. Having a higher speed internet connection allows you to have a smooth operation, and with ensuring that everybody who's coming on is able to see you clearly without breaking, the sound is clear, so it creates a good overall experience. Another hybrid do is that with anything new, people don't necessarily know all the etiquettes that should be followed. For example, when you come onto a meeting, you might want to hit the mute because there could be a dog in the background. There could be a child crying. There could be the UPS driver hitting the, or you receiving a call, for example. A lot of that comes through and it can be distracting. So sometimes people forget. But that's why we also have the operator. The operator, like John, is sitting at the computer. If he hears something odd, he can go in, he can look at the gallery view of who might have their microphone unmuted, and then he can mute on their behalf. So again, that just creates a nice experience so that you don't have to hear dogs barking. The next thing also is that John, right now, as he's sitting at the laptop, he has host capability. So he has administrative privileges where he can do things like let people into the meeting, which I just did for Emily while John was giving his presentation. But you can also give co-host access. And often, more often than not, like half of our meetings now have remote presenters. And before, the presenter could only be local. It would be the easiest. But now we can have somebody at RI do it from Chicago. We have had members give presentations from India multiple times. And it really expand that geographical range, which is amazing. But you do have to give them co-host access. Co-host is important because then they can share their screen, because often they'll have a PowerPoint. So they don't have to send it to me to put it on a laptop. They can just go about it themselves. Sometimes, however, they will send the PowerPoint to me because they just don't feel comfortable. Not every presenter is fully embraced Zoom. They just know how to click the link and just look through the monitor. But in terms of operations, that can vary depending on their proficiency. So that's why we're here to ease it for them. Now, I understand Rotary has been established for a long, long period of time, and some people may be apprehensive about going hybrid or controlling things and using this whole Zoom thing. I think we need, not only do we need to be advocates of it, we need to be facilitators and ensure that this is a very, very simple process. And so that's why John and I are here today to take you through this In addition, after the meeting, we'd be delighted to show you what we have here on the table, as well as at the House of Friendship. Okay, the next thing is ensure you have a plan B. Sometimes you may get ill. Yeah, like in this case here. Sometimes you may get ill, and it's very possible that you are going to want to train down. And that's what we do here in Rotary anyway, the ladder towards success. Ensuring that there's another representative in the club that can shadow you and that you can train, because in the event that you can't make it, there is somebody still waiting in the wings that can operate all of this. And we've made it plug and play because it's repetitive. And it takes probably about 8 sessions before that engineer feels comfortable with it. So it's highly recommended that you just don't rely on one individual. The next thing is don't forget to involve the Zoom audience. Sometimes it's so easy for the president to be engaged with the room at large, but they forget that there's an audience at the screen. And so what I do as the engineer is that I'll remind the president, oh, by the way, so we're doing the happy bucks. We've gone around the room. Oh, Mr. President, remember that there's an online audience. Not only for things like happy bucks, it's engaging them for things like the Pledge of Allegiance, the inspiration, the 4-way test. Also during the time when the presenter's either presenting or towards the end, we generally have our questions and answers. So the format is such that we can alternate, or we can just go in-room questions, and then we move to the online audience. So they'll be asking the presenter questions directly. So we want to make it feel as seamless as possible, that it doesn't matter if you decide to Zoom in. Living in Minnesota, we have a lot of snowbirds that go to Florida during the wintertime, but they can attend every single meeting, regardless where they are. So less of a chance to have a low attendance percentage. Next thing is this. When we set up all this equipment, the assumption is that, well, I had it plugged in right the first time and it was working smoothly last Monday or whenever your Rotary meeting was. So I'm assuming that I'm going to come back to the meeting, I'll plug and play, it should be exactly as I left it. However, that's not always the case. You put things away, sound volumes change, internet connection cuts out, whatever it may be. Sometimes plugs even get reversed. There was an odd instance in which one of my plugs got reversed. Somebody had unplugged it and then plugged it back in, but plugged it into the wrong setting or the wrong outlet. So I had to troubleshoot and figure out what's going on here. And because I had taken photos of my setup from prior, I was able to cross-reference, and I realized, who did this? Somebody did this. But that could spell disaster because one little setting, unfortunately, may not work. But that's why we have these fallback plans, and we have these guides that John and the team have created, and they're available at your desk, so you'll be able to see some of those things in action. The next thing is, I talked about this already, of course, having the alternate Rotarian. Okay, a couple of don'ts. I think these are highly helpful. Don't forget that there are individuals that will be in the chat feature. So, and this has happened, like early on when I started handling the Zoom, is that people will forget, the people in room will forget that some of the online Zoomers, they want to ask a question, or maybe they have an announcement. Because most Rotary clubs, somebody wants to raise their hand and offer a special announcement. And that could be during the meeting, not necessarily during the presenter's time. But there will be a little tiny one showing up right there. You simply click on it, and then you'll be able to watch, read the message. And the reason why they use the chat is because they don't want to interrupt the Rotary meeting in session, because they'll come in right through here. So as the president's talking and they say something, they'll be overlapping. So this chat feature is used quite often. Okay. All right, there we go. Excellent. Another thing is, the only way the Zoom audience can hear is through this microphone. So if John or any of the attendees today are speaking, they'll be heard very faintly. And so let's say I'm the guest presenter and I'm fielding a question from the room, it's very, very important to repeat the question. Otherwise, the Zoom audience only hears the answer, but they don't have the reference, which is the question. Now, there are options where you can have multiple microphones and they can pick up the sound a little bit better, but it's generally best practices to have the presenter repeat the question. And I will tell the presenter at the beginning of the meeting that that's an important thing, but sometimes they forget. So I'll just stick up my hand and have them and do this, and they know to repeat the question. So that's good etiquette. Another thing that we don't want to do is don't forget to present at the beginning of the meeting or during certain parts of the meeting, the grid view. So you'll see here that there's a compilation. See, we can see all the people that are present and engaged with us today. They include Bruce and, I can't really see, but you can see all the different members with us. Don't forget that that is really important because not only does it allow you to feel like there's a much larger group, they're familiar faces. And if you ever wanted to make a comment, actually, as you did this morning when we began, they were saying hi to each other. And that makes them feel inclusive. And so they're more likely to participate. I remember there was a gentleman, his name is Jim Lucas, longtime member of our Rotary Club, 35 plus years. And he was adamant about not doing Zoom. He says, no, no, no. Rotary is a tradition. We always meet in person. We have our meals and we talk. Fellowship happens face to face. And he was resistant for many, many, many months. But when he did jump on Zoom, we made an extra special point to include him, to make him feel warm, to make him feel welcome. And he slowly started to realize, wow, this could be like the way that I'm used to. I just don't, he can't shake anybody's hand, of course, but it was a nice option. And we slowly, gradually got him to become a mainstream adopter, which I feel is a huge milestone. Last but not least, what you see in front of John, what you saw earlier with the different setups, it could be perceived as intimidating. There's so many buttons, so many cords. Terry, you're telling me that one little setting can throw things off. That's very intimidating, especially if it's not something you do every day, and most of us don't. But I wanted to share with you that the great thing is that there are resources available. We are here to hold your hand. Again, the sheets that are in front of you will help with that. But it can be very fun. It can be relaxing. You'll see here that I've got 2 laptops in front of me running an actual meeting, and I'm having my lunch at the same time. What I've discovered as somebody handling the hybrid is that through my talent and through my desire to be able to provide this service, it has impacted our Rotary Club greatly. I was president of a Rotary Club several years ago. And you would think, boy, as president, you have so much power to affect change and improve the lives of Rotarians that entire Rotary year. To my surprise, I think I've made a bigger impact providing hybrid services. I've had more Rotarians come to me thanking me for my service than I ever did as president, which I thought was odd, but I'm grateful for it. In addition, my impact with hybrid goes beyond my Rotary Club 4 walls. It has now expanded to district level, to zone level, but it's also affected Rotarians outside of our club in various countries. And that's mind-boggling. So the power of hybrid is very impactful. When we saw COVID starting to subside a bit, I thought, well, maybe hybrid will have less relevance. But now we're seeing a resurgence in this that has greater relevance. So I feel that hybrid's going to be here to stay. It's going to be a natural part of our Rotary clubs.